Have you ever found yourself in a meeting at work feeling like a fraud? Even though you're capable and you're qualified, today we're talking about imposter syndrome, a phenomenon that's more common than you might think. So here to help us understand what it is and how to deal with it, our relationship expert, Dr. Karyn Gordon.
Oh, you look great. Oh, you look great. I love those pink shoes.
Throw red on anything and it's like, it's
I know. I love red.
It's good.
Red is my favorite color.
You know what, can I start this doc by talking about Lizzo, because I love her and I'm obsessed?
Yes.
Okay, so Lizzo
Definitely.
is, of course, a performing artist, and this is what she says. Every woman on that stage had a story of either why they shouldn't have been on that stage or why they didn't believe they deserved to be on that stage, including myself. Imposter syndrome is a privilege to the most marginalized group in America, and I'm going to say in North America or the world. Not only were we taught to believe we didn't belong in the spotlight, but when we finally get to a place of self-worth, the world tries to knock us down. That's American singer and rapper Lizzo. And that, it really does hit sort of the core of this whole idea of imposter syndrome. So let's talk about what it is, when it was coined. What does it mean?
So this is interesting. I was talking to this amazing audience before, but I'm like, who's actually heard of it? Only 3 hands actually went up. So
Okay, good, so we can explain.
Absolutely. And you know, I think this is it's been around for a long time. So it was actually coined by 2 psychologists in 1978. They were researching actually high achieving women that seemed to basically kind of give external reasons on why they were successful. Okay. So examples are like, you know, I got the promotion because nobody else went for it.
Right.
Or I got an A on the exam because it was easy. Or I got the job because I was lucky. So in other words, we're kind of giving external reasons for, we're not kind of owning it.
Yes.
Okay, we're not actually owning it. And so so it got coined this term imposter syndrome. Now what's interesting about this is that a lot of health professionals do not like this term because it is not a mental illness. It is not a clinical diagnosis.
No.
It is a mindset.
Yes.
Okay, so it is kind of tricky or kind of around that, but it's very popular, and the stats are 70%, Tracy.
Like 70% of women
70%
suffer from
of
imposter
people.
syndrome? 70% of people.
70% of people.
So I won't generalize based on gender.
Yes. And this is actually one of the interesting things kind of around is that when they first started, they focused on high achieving women, thinking this is more of a female thing. And when they actually started, so since then, a lot more research has been done about it, and they're actually finding it's actually pretty equal.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Yes.
So why is it important for us to understand that we might be feeling like an imposter and it's not actually real?
Well, it's interesting. Well, first of all, we're not owning it, right? Like if a person has worked so hard, you want them actually to be taking credit for it, right? You want them to be kind of like, think about our children. When they're working so hard, we want them to kind of own it. So, you know, it's really important for people to, and it has massive impacts in terms of their self-esteem and actually their confidence, right? Yeah. So one of the things that I really want to do is understand the cost. First of all, now that I have explained with what it is, put your hand up. If you can kind of a little bit identify with at some point.
Now?
Does this kind of make sense? So you're kind of blaming, you're not owning your own success. You're kind of blaming it on another reason.
You're saying you didn't really earn it and you're kind of here by default and maybe you shouldn't really be here, someone else should be here, but you're here, so great.
You're here. And a lot of people will say, I feel like a fraud.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the most common phrases that actually I hear is I feel like a fraud. I haven't really owned it. And so the first time I ever heard of it, it was my second year of practice, and I had this really successful lawyer as one of my clients.
Yeah.
And I remember him as a male. And I was like really early in my practice. And I remember him using this language. I feel like a fraud. I feel like somebody's gonna find me out. I feel like I'm not as good of a lawyer as people think I am. And I remember like listening as a new therapist going, wow, that is so interesting.
Right.
You know, he was, you know, really successful, but this mindset was very toxic.
Yes.
It's very toxic, okay? So this is something that I think a lot of us experience, but we don't really talk about it.
Right.
Right, we're kind of ashamed of it.
What do we need to do though in terms of trying to get past the mindset?
The mindset, okay, so step number 1 is you gotta know the cost. So one of the biggest costs of it is that it kind of holds us back.
Right.
All of a sudden we become more fearful of trying new things because we're not really kind of owning our success, so we're gonna kind of like we kind of backpedal instead of kind of going forward. And actually, I would say that's probably one of the biggest costs. And then the other issue is just in terms of when you have this mindset, you will probably feel more stress, more anxiety, more likely to suffer from depression, and also perfectionism. Like it's all kind of part of the same family. So that's really important to understand the cost. Okay, if I have this mindset, this is the cost I'm kind of accepting as part of the package.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not gonna take the torch and run with it. You're gonna sort of make yourself small because you got here by accident. So now it's just you just gotta last.
You got it.
You just gotta stay here.
Yes.
You're saying we should write down our accomplishments.
Yes. So step 2 is, and this is a good way to kind of help people kind of get unstuck from it, is to just simply take 5 minutes and actually get a pen and paper and start writing down your accomplishments.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really simple exercise. My kids just started grade 7, and my one son actually had this as an assignment, where he actually had to write down his accomplishments, and I thought that was such a great exercise.
Yes,
so that is a great
excellent.
little practical step.
Before you get to your third sort of tip for us, I want to just throw in another sort of source from a study that some researchers believe that this whole idea of imposter syndrome, and I'm going to use the word syndrome, hits minority groups harder because there's a lack of representation, which makes us feel like outsiders.
Correct.
And I'm going to add to that society fuels into that by repeating and perpetuating the message that you actually should not be there.
Yes.
You know, I can't tell you how many times I heard from in grade 9 and winning a pageant in my little town, you won it because you were black. You're hosting the show because you're black. They needed, they needed a black person there.
Right.
And so that's being perpetuated. It's like, if you understood really my journey and what I've been through as a black woman, that would never be an accusation, but it fuels it. It fuels it, right? So
absolutely.
You kind of have to try and weigh against that and weigh against what society's saying as well.
Absolutely. And it was University of Texas that have really figured out that minority groups for sure are going to probably experience this a lot more.
Yeah.
Because when you're not seeing people that look like you, that are similar to you,
all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't be here.
Maybe I shouldn't be. I don't belong here. I think that's right. That's part of it. I don't belong here. I haven't earned it.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm
that's
kind
right.
of lucky.
So the other thing you say is you have to get wise counsel. You got to surround yourself by people.
You got to pull in the troops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really believe, we've talked about this before in the show, I believe in wise counsel. I feel it's important that all of us have trusted advisors in our life.
Yeah.
People that we really go to. It can be a mentor, a coach, a therapist, a teacher. In workplaces, they're seeing imposter syndrome so big that they're actually starting employee resource groups to kind of offer peer for people actually, just so that we actually have other people that can kind of give us another perspective, another insight to kind of help us break out of our noise of this toxic thinking. So that's another great resource actually as well.
Really good tips.
Thanks,
I love
Trace.
that.